Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, I'm going to go out on a limb to predict a fall in steel prices over the coming months. This will benefit the cost of many types of new construction, including industrial and concrete structures such as apartment buildings and condo towers. While industry insiders are not yet making this claim, I'm going to construct a thesis for this prediction and connect the dots for you. And at the end of this, I believe you're going to be convinced that my prediction has some validity. I can't tell you exactly how much steel prices will fall, or even for how long. All I can tell you is that at this juncture, steel prices will fall in the coming months. The headwaters of this story start at a microchip manufacturing plant in Japan. Now, you're probably thinking, what does a chip manufacturing plant in Japan have to do with the price of concrete construction? Well, about 6 weeks ago, there was a fire at a Renesas semiconductor plant in Naka, Japan, just northeast of Tokyo. This 300mm facility manufactures chips largely for the automotive industry. In fact, Renesas commands about a third of the share of the market for microcontroller chips used in automotive applications. The fire impacted about 6,500 square feet of cleanroom and destroyed 23 machines that are used to manufacture chips. Now, this may not sound like a lot, but the impact is huge. 2 weeks ago, Renesas executives announced they had completed the cleanup and they were preparing to restart partial manufacturing capacity by the beginning of May, and they hope to restore full capacity by July. But even before the fire in the Renesas facility, there were signs of chip shortages in other semiconductor manufacturing facilities around the world. Before we can talk about restoration of manufacturing capacity, it's important to understand the life cycle of semiconductor products. The auto industry has a long production life cycle. A cell phone, by comparison, has a technology obsolescence curve of only a couple of years. Much of the semiconductor industry is geared towards these shorter life cycle products that are really consumer electronics products. Automotive, on the other hand, needs to maintain a semiconductor process in production for 10 to 15 years, sometimes longer. To start with, the time delay between a car being designed and receiving its roadworthy certification can be as much as 5 years. It used to be 7 years, but now it's getting a little bit quicker. Then after that, the car needs to stay in production for a number of years with only cosmetic changes to keep the latest model looking fresh. The underlying platform of the car needs to stay in production for a long time, and semiconductor manufacturers tend to consolidate manufacturing for these older, mature legacy manufacturing processes into a single factory. That means that you essentially have a sole source for the chips that are used to manufacture automobiles. The early adopters of the technology for computers and cell phones and gaming and so on have long since moved on to more advanced manufacturing processes. The automotive industry and maybe some of the slower moving industries like telecom keep those chips in production for a long time. But the manufacturing volume is so low that it doesn't make sense to keep the process running in multiple facilities. So you end up being sole sourced in a single factory for the entire automotive industry. The impact of the chip shortage on the auto industry has been estimated as much as $60 billion this year, and some auto manufacturers have issued warnings about production cuts as a result of the chip shortage. Volkswagen is estimating production cuts of 1.3 million units in the first quarter of 2021, and similar numbers, maybe even larger, in the second quarter. The new merger of Fiat, Chrysler, and Peugeot, called Stellantis, is estimating an 11% drop in production. Supply of chips is not expected to stabilize until Q4. Honda, Nissan, General Motors have all reported significant shutdowns in their factories due to the chip shortage. The chip shortage means the consumption of steel from the automotive industry is being reduced by a large margin. One of the commodity metrics used to measure pricing in this sector is the domestic hot-rolled coil steel futures price. This price is measured in US dollars per metric ton. Generally speaking, the price for steel from China is approximately 50% less than the price for steel in the US or Europe, and transportation costs reduce that price gap somewhat at the point of consumption. Now, while steel prices are currently at an all-time high, with a solid upward trajectory since the middle of 2020, I see a drop in demand from the auto industry, creating a softening of prices in the coming months and a stabilization of prices. The rapid increase in the price of softwood lumber for construction also has increased demand for steel. It's caused some builders to substitute steel for wood in some applications. That substitution increased the demand for steel framing in applications that traditionally would have only considered wood. But there are signs that the lumber mill production is starting to catch up to the demand, and we could see prices for lumber fall by the fourth quarter. And as soon as that happens, the demand for steel framing in applications that would have otherwise used wood will also evaporate. The construction industry will quickly switch back to the less expensive wood product instead of steel for framing as soon as wood prices start to moderate. We can expect automotive demand for steel maybe to start to resume in 2022, but the dynamics of the auto industry will be difficult to predict that far into the future. All I can say for now is that I'm predicting a fall in the price of steel for construction into the second half of 2021. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.